All right, hello and welcome to this episode. So today we're going to talk about the collective unconscious, and we're going to talk about Carl Jung. We're going to talk about letting go, and we're going to talk about intrusive thoughts, all in one episode. In fact, all in just a few paragraphs. And we're going to dive into really this idea of the collective unconscious and intrusive thoughts, and and I think talking about this concept is really going to help people who struggle with intrusive thoughts kind of take a lot of the weight off their shoulders. So, real quick, for those of you who are listening or watching the show, we really appreciate your support by liking and subscribing and hitting that notification bell, as well as leaving a comment or review on iTunes and Spotify. It really helps me. It really helps the show. Please take a few minutes to do that. Secondly, if you are looking for help with OCD and anxiety, please head over to restoredminds.com or click the links in the notes. We have some resources for you to get started, and we're happy to help guide you on that journey. So with that said, let's head back into the episode. So I'm going to read a passage here from Letting Go. I did that earlier this week as well. And I mean, it's just one of my favorite books when it comes to anything related to mental, emotional, physical health. I mean, it's just a phenomenal read. So if you haven't ever read that book, it's one that I would definitely recommend to put on your reading list. So let me go ahead and read, and then I'm going to dive into each component and then kind of break apart what that means from an OCD and anxiety perspective. So this is in the chapter on fear, by the way. Hawkins writes, one of the blocks to becoming acquainted with the fears in one's own mind is the fear of opinions of others. The wanting of their approval goes on inside our minds in a constant fantasy. We identify with the opinions of others, including authority figures, and do this in such a way that we hear it as our own opinion of ourselves. In looking at fears, then, it is well to remember that Carl Jung saw this reservoir of the forbidden inside the shadow as a part of the collective unconscious. The term collective unconscious means that everybody, I'm going to say that again, everybody has these thoughts and fantasies. There is nothing unique about any of us when it comes to the way we symbolize our emotions. Everybody secretly harbors the fear that they are dumb, ugly, unlovable, and a failure. So, I know that's a sharp, hard sentence to end that with, but there's just so many little points here that I want to talk about. So, the idea of the collective unconscious was, from Carl Jung, famously talked about the shadow, integrating the shadow, and the importance of that. Now, when it comes to our fears, especially intrusive thoughts, a lot of the reason people fear intrusive thoughts is because the fear of what if somebody knew what was going on in my mind. And so a lot of the fear comes from the expected shame or guilt that would be put on us by other people. And so we fear the thoughts, we fear the mere presence of the thoughts when it comes to intrusive thoughts. And then like you said, though, inside that reservoir of unconscious thoughts in our mind is the collective unconscious. And he talks about this idea that everybody has this same experience. So the collective, like if you thought of the collective, if you think of us as own individual consciousness, and there's this collective unconscious, like essentially this idea that we all share the same unconscious, right? Which is a really fascinating idea. And, we all have these dark, twisted thoughts. And there's a really key passage in here. I'm going to read it again. And he says, there's nothing unique about any of us when it comes to the way we symbolize our emotions. So when you understand thought is merely the mind's way of symbolizing an emotion within, right? And this is kind of why we talk so much when it comes to intrusive thoughts about the energy one's experiencing. So because there's a very different energy in the desire of something versus the fear of something. And so when someone might be asking me, I hear this question all the time, Matt, like, why did I have this intrusive thought of what if this, right? Fill in the blank. Could be harm, sexual, towards religion, God, and I had this intrusive thought, XYZ, right? And when you step back and think about it, it's like, okay, and this is why, like, I often will be paying attention to the person's energy. It's like, okay, what do you feel when that happens? Well, I feel great fear, right? They're able to detect the energy of fear versus someone who is like, hey, I want to XYZ, I want to hurt that person, do that thing, whatever, right? The fear energy and the desire energy are totally different. And like we've talked about, at least we talk a lot about in our coaching program and community, the idea that a lot of our fears with intrusive thoughts lead to this fear of rejection, this fear of disapproval. And that's why even the mere idea of having people know what's going on in our mind in an unwanted fashion, these unwanted intrusive thoughts, is oftentimes so scary for people because of the fear of what people would think about them. Right. And this is just so important to understand. And I really hope I'm articulating this in a coherent way, because this idea of the collective unconscious takes the pressure off this idea that your intrusive thoughts are not abnormal. Everyone has these. Everyone has these experiences. And then there's the rare 2% of people that just lie and say they don't, And there are people whose minds are very still and calm, but a lot of those people really do a good job tending themselves emotionally, right? This is why the main work when it comes to OCD and anxiety is actually releasing and learning to let go and feel through a lot of the fear and guilt that's stored in the system. And that's like the main function of taking back control. That's like the entire philosophy of the program, is actually learning to release the energy underneath the thoughts. Because what a lot of people do is they don't tend to the actual emotion. They try to fight it on a thought level. And then what happens is your mind latches on to something else, and you project the fear onto a different topic, and they bounce around from theme to theme to theme to theme. And they come up with these crazy ideas like, oh, well, I have these 8 themes of OCD, and I've had, these 8 themes throughout my life. It's like, no, that's not what's going on. You need to address the underlying fear itself, the underlying energy of fear itself. And understanding this idea of the collective unconscious, my hope is takes a lot of weight off you, realizing that you're not abnormal. That there's nothing wrong with you for experiencing these thoughts. Where it becomes a problem is when you're trying not to experience them. So you operate in suppression and you engage in mental compulsions and physical compulsions that paradoxically keep you stuck in the energetic wheel of fear. And that's exactly what the book from, my book From Stuck to Unstuck is about really understanding that the loop is the problem. And, so I wanted to share this passage because it's just such a beautifully put, and Hawkins, Dr. Hawkins was just so articulate and he was able to describe very complex concepts in a way that's very understandable to a layman like myself. And so with all that said, I hope this was helpful. I hope this, if you wrestle with intrusive thoughts, I hope this kind of took some ease off. And again, if you haven't ever checked out Letting Go, I would encourage that. Secondly, if you're looking for help with OCD and anxiety, again, the From Stuck to Unstuck book is a great starting point. And then as well as, you can always apply for our Taking Back Control program, where we can really help you implement this in your life. So thank you so much for checking out this episode. I hope it was helpful. And with that, I wish you a great week and a great day. Hey there. So if you enjoyed that video, we've linked up a few more videos that we think you'd find helpful as well. And if you have found this helpful, we'd really appreciate your support by liking and subscribing. And if you're looking for help and guidance, please check out restoredminds.com, as we have several options for you to get started. See you guys soon.